The State of Qatar National Day is a national commemoration of Qatar's unification in 1878. It's celebrated annually on December 18th and may also be known as Founder Day. The holiday is a national day and most of the public are given the day off from school and work prior to the Emir decree in June 2007. Qatar National Day was annually celebrated on September 3rd, the day of Qatar's independence. The state of Qatar had started to develop into an important settlement in the 18th century following periods of control from various local regions, including agreements with the British, the Ottoman Empire, who arrived in 1871 at the request of the Emir. On December 18, 1878, Sheikh Jassim bin Mohammed al-Thani succeeded his father, Sheikh Mohammed bin al-Thani, as ruler of Qatar, becoming its first emir in a lineage that continues to this day. During the First World War, the Ottoman Empire was falling apart as a result of losing a series of key battles. Qatar took part in the Arab Revolt against the Ottoman Empire, forcing the Ottomans from Doha in 1915. In 1916, Qatar became a British protectorate. Qatar gained independence from the United Kingdom and became an independent sovereign state on September 3, 1971. Qatar covers a high-income economy with high natural gas reserves and oil reserves. As per the 2017 census, Qatar's total population is 2.6 million. The state of Qatar is situated on a peninsula that extends from the Arabian Peninsula approximately 160 kilometers north into the Arabian Gulf. It is bordered by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The state of Qatar shares maritime borders with the Kingdom of Bahrain, the Islamic Republic of Iran, and the United Arab Emirates. The country covers an area of 11,586 square kilometers, making Qatar about 1.25 times larger than Cyprus, or also somewhat larger than Puerto Rico. During the late 1980s and early 1990s, the Qatari economy was crippled by a continuous siphoning of petroleum revenues by the emir who had ruled the country since 1972. Oil and natural gas revenues enable Qatar to have a per capita income not far below the leading industrial countries of Western Europe. Qatar has one of the world's largest reserves of petroleum and natural gas and employs large numbers of foreign workers in its production process. Because of its oil wealth, the country's residents enjoy a high standard of living and a well-established system of social services. The capital is the eastern coastal city of Doha, which was once a center for pearling and is home to most of the country's inhabitants. Radiating inland from its attractive seaside boulevard, Doha blends pre-modern architecture with new office buildings, shopping malls, and apartment complexes. Qatar's traditions draw on a nomadic past and practices that are centuries old, from hand-woven products to falconry. However, the country's population is urban and coastal, its daily life is thoroughly modern, and its rulers have sought to enhance civil liberties. The press is among the freest in the region, themselves on their tolerance for the cultures and beliefs of others. On the status of the country's large expatriate community, the ruling emir has noted that in Qatar they find security and a dignified livelihood. Most of Qatar's area is flat, low-lying desert which rises from the east to a central limestone plateau. Sand dunes and salt flats are the chief features of the southern and southeastern sectors. Vegetation is found only in the north, where the country's irrigated farming areas are located and where desert plants blossom briefly during the spring rains. Fauna is limited, and the government has implemented a program to protect the Arabian oryx, Qatar's national animal. Qataris are largely urban dwellers. Less than 1% of the population lives in rural areas. Doha, on the east coast, is Qatar's largest city and a commercial center and contains about half of the Emirates' population. It has a deep water port and an international airport. The main oil port and industrial center is Said, to the south of Doha on the eastern coast. Al Rayyan, just northwest of Doha, is the country's second major urban area. These three cities and many smaller settlements are linked by roads. Of the many islands and the coral reefs belonging to Qatar, Halul in the Arabian Gulf, 60 miles east of Doha, serves as a collecting and storage point for the country's 3 offshore oil fields. The population of Qatar has been steadily growing despite a low death rate. However, the country's relatively low birth rate has led to a rate of natural increase that is slightly lower than the world average. Its net migration rate is the highest of any country in the Arabian Gulf region and the third highest in the world. Males outnumber females more than 3 to 1 in large part because of the disproportionate number of expatriate males. Likewise, due to the high migration rate, the population is largely of working age, with more than 70% of the population concentrated in the 15 to 29 and 30 to 44 age ranges. The average life expectancy is about 77 years for males and 81 for females. Qatar's economic prosperity is derived from the extraction and export of petroleum discovered in 1939 and first produced in 1949, and natural gas. Before World War II, Qatar's population engaged in pearling, fishing, and some trade, with little exception the only occupations available, and was one of the poorest in the world. By the 1970s, however, native Qataris enjoyed one of the highest per capita incomes in the world, despite subsequent declines in income due to the fluctuation in world oil prices. Qatar's original oil concession was granted to the Iraqi Petroleum Company, a consortium European and American firms. This and later concessions were nationalized in the 1970s, while state-owned Qatar Petroleum, formerly Qatar General Petroleum Corporation, oversees oil and gas operations. Private corporations continue to play an important role as service companies. The government has attempted to modernize the fishing and agriculture sectors by offering interest-free loans, yet food production continues to generate only a tiny fraction of gross domestic product. The scarcity of fertile land and water imposes severe limitation on agriculture, and a large proportion of the country's food must be imported. Use of treated sewage, effluent, and desalinated water for irrigation, however, has helped to expand the production of fruits such as dates, melons, vegetables, tomatoes, squash, eggplant, which Qatar now exports to other Gulf countries. Production of meat, cereal grains, and milk also began to increase by the end of the 20th century. Pearling is almost non-existent, in large part because of Japan's dominant cultured pearl industry. The government maintains a fishing fleet and since the late 1990s has placed greater emphasis on commercial fishing and shrimp harvesting. Qatar possesses enormous deposits of natural gas, and its offshore North Field is one of the largest gas fields in the world. The country's petroleum reserves, found both onshore along the western coast and offshore from the eastern coast, are modest by regional standards. In an attempt to reduce its dependency on oil, Qatar began to develop its natural gas resources in the mid-1990s. To develop its gas fields, Qatar had to borrow heavily, but high oil prices in the early 21st century put the country on more firm financial footing. Qatar has sought to diversify its economy through industrialization. Most of the manufacturing sector comprises large firms of mixed state and foreign private ownership. For example, the Qatar Petrochemical Company is largely owned by a government holding company, and a French firm has a minor stake. Flour milling and cement production has also been undertaken. Diversification by expanding manufacturing depends on an abundance of cheap energy for running plants. However, it is thus tied to Qatar's hydrocarbon resources. Its natural gas reserves have been used to develop a strong liquefied natural gas industry. The Qatar Central Bank, founded in 1993, provided banking functions for the state and issues the Qatari rial, the national currency. In addition to domestic banks, including commercial development and Islamic banks, licensed foreign banks are also authorized to operate. Qatar has been generous in its foreign aid disbursements, particularly to other Arab and Islamic countries. The Doha Stock Exchange began operations in 1997. Machinery and transport equipment, manufactured goods, and food and live animals are Qatar's major imports. LNG, crude petroleum, and refined petroleum account for the bulk of the value of exports. Top import sources for Qatar include the United States, China, Germany, Japan, South Korea, and India are among Qatar's most important export destinations. Japan alone receives by far the largest proportion of Qatar's exports, largely in the form of petroleum and petroleum products. The service sector, including public administration and defense, accounts for roughly half of the GDP and employs more than half of the workforce. The country's military expenditure as percentage of gross national product is high at nearly 4 times the world average. In an attempt to further diversify Qatar's economy, the government has sought to develop tourism, in particular by promoting the country as a site for international conferences. However, tourism remains a relatively small component of the economy. Foreigners account for the great bulk of Qatar's workforce, a matter of continuing concerns for Qatari officials. The government has actively pursued programs to encourage employing and promoting Qatari nationals in the workforce. However, a 5-year plan introduced in 2000 to boost significantly the number of Qataris in the force fell far short of its goals. Qatar does not levy taxes on personal income, nor does it have a general sales tax. Foreign corporations, excluding those owned by members of the Gulf Cooperation Council, are taxed, but the amount accounts for less than 1/10 of the government's revenue. The bulk of its revenue comes from the sale of petroleum and natural gas. The country set up a general tax authority in late 2018 as it began to expand and reform its tax policies. In 2019, it implemented hefty excise taxes on sugary drinks, tobacco products, and energy drinks. Qatar was also set to implement a value-added tax of 5% by 2020 in coordination with the GCC. A constitutional emirate with one advisory body, Qatar is ruled by a hereditary emir from Al Thani. Members of the ruling family hold almost all the major ministerial posts, which are appointed by the emir. The family, however, is large and fragmented. As oil revenues rose after World War II, contention within the ruling family grew. The emir's power is constrained by the need to maintain the support of important family members, many of whom occupy high governmental posts. The ruling family and the country's wealth contribute to Qatar's political stability. The emir has also cautiously expanded political participation, allowing the first municipal elections to take place in 1999 with an electorate that included both female and male Qataris. Under a provincial constitution enacted in 1972, the emir ruled in consultation with a council of ministers and an appointed advisory council. However, a new constitution was approved by referendum in 2003 and enacted in 2005. Among its provisions was a national assembly, 2/3 of whose members would be popularly elected and 1/3 appointed. There are no political parties in Qatar. Since 1999, Qataris have been allowed to vote in municipal elections. Voting is open to all citizens aged 18 years and older, except for members of the police and armed forces, and women are allowed to stand for public office. Military service is voluntary for males aged 18 years and older. Qatar has a small defense force of some 12,000 troops, most of whom serve in the army, and the country depends on the protection of its neighbors and allies to deter possible external threats. The country's military expenditure as a percentage of GDP, however, is high, 5 times the world average, more than almost any other countries. Healthcare and medical services are provided free to all residents through government programs. The government also funds recreational and cultural clubs and facilities for young people as part of its extensive youth welfare campaign. Education is free but not compulsory for all citizens between the ages of 6 and 16. Classes are segregated by sex. Qatar spends generously on education, having one of the most highest per pupil expenditures in the world. Its system has expanded rapidly. 2 teacher training faculties, one for men and one for women, were established in 1973, and together they were given university status as the University of Qatar in 1977. The university has continued to expand, and a new campus was completed in Doha in 1985. Interest in establishing Qatar as a major regional research hub led to the foundation of Education City, a multi-university faculty located on the outskirts of Doha. Early in 21st century, several American institutions had branches in Education City, including Virginia Commonwealth University, Cornell Medical College, part of Cornell University, Carnegie Mellon University, Texas A&M University, Northwestern University, and Georgetown University. The government also provides adult education classes in schools and centers throughout the country, with an emphasis on increasing adult literacy. About 4/5 of the country's population is literate, with roughly equal proportions of males and females. The Qatari people are descendants of Bedouin and have maintained a tradition of generous hospitality. Qatari society, however, tends to be conservative in most respects and is heavily influenced by Islamic customs. Likewise, dress is generally traditional and conservative. Qatari Arab men usually dress in a flowing white shirt and a headscarf held in place by a cord. Dress for Qatari women, although still conservative, many women still wear the full-length black cloak, generally over Western clothing, but others simply wear the veil. The traditional dress is often decorated with gold or silver embroidery. Qatari cuisine features fresh fish and rice cooked with Indian spices. A typical meal might include broiled fish served on a bed of spiced rice with curry and potatoes. Coffee is the beverage of choice and is usually served strong, boiling hot, and without sugar. The capital of Doha also abounds in restaurants offering cuisines, and they are from around the world. The Qatari Fine Arts Society promotes and exhibits work by local painters, as do the handful of galleries to be found in Doha. The National Council for Culture, Arts and Heritage and several other agencies and departments oversee literary, artistic and cultural activities, as well as recreation and tourism. The traditional Bedouin arts of weaving, mostly rugs and pillows, poetry and singing, are still practiced. A genre of music known as Nahma, once popular among pearl divers in Qatar and the broader Gulf region, virtually disappeared with the decline of the pearling industry, although the Qatari government has made great efforts to preserve it. Located in a former palace, the Qatar National Museum, founded in 1975 in Doha, includes displays on the country's history and archaeology, as well as a model lagoon in which Qatari sailing and pearling vessels are featured. The museum's large aquarium is a popular attraction. A fort at Doha has been converted into a museum for traditional crafts. Qatar's National Theatre performs programs in the capital. Qatar's sports culture blends the traditional sports of Arabia's desert society with contemporary sports of Western origin. Popular traditional sports, including Arabian horse racing, camel racing, and falconry, all rooted in the country's nomadic past. Western sports such as basketball, golf, handball, football, swimming, table tennis, track, and volleyball are practiced widely, but primarily by the expatriate population. Football is overwhelmingly the most popular of these. In 2010, it was announced that Qatar would be the site of the final of the World Cup football competition in 2022, making it the first Middle Eastern country scheduled to host the event. The country also hosts several annual sporting events, of which tennis, golf, and automobile racing are the most notable. Government-owned radio and television stations broadcast in Arabic, English, French, and Urdu. In 1996, media restrictions in Qatar were relaxed. The country's press is among the freest in the regional, and that year Al Jazeera, a satellite television network, was founded by a member of the ruling family. The outspoken news channel is received throughout much of the Muslim world and has become one of the most popular stations in the Middle East, as well as one of the most important sources of news in the region. For any country, the most important and remarkable day is their National Day. The National Day is celebrated with great enthusiasm by the citizens. At the beginning of the day, celebrations start with the parade by military forces in the morning, in which thousands of people gather at a major point like a stadium or any park to show respect towards their country. The ceremony prolongs for about 1 or 2 hours, in which everyone is seen holding their flags and performing national anthem afterward. The major person of the army or from the government are seen also at the ceremony. Qatar National Day celebrations begin a week before the National Day. People are seen lighting up their houses along with their family feasts. People decorate their houses with banners and hoisting flags. Games and swimming competitions are organized by different organizations. Even the important buildings are set with big flags to show solidarity towards their country. The parks are set up with food stalls, swings, play area, and other activities for children, as many of them are dressed up in their flag-colored dresses. Qatar National Day 2020 also includes fireworks at night. Concerts and dance performances are arranged at night for the crowd. Renowned bands and singers are invited to concerts which make full entertainment space. Late-night magical shows are also set up. In the shopping mall, sale offers are set on clothing, beauty products, and other daily usage stuff. People go shopping and enjoy these sale products for themselves and also send gifts to their loved ones.